Hello, saints and scholars. Welcome back to Theo Life with me, Patrick Stitt, where today we're discussing the argument of degrees. In a previous video, we looked at the first three parts of Thomas Aquinas' Quine Viae, or 5 ways. Thomas Aquinas lays out 5 arguments for the existence of God. The first 3 are part of the cosmological argument, proving the existence of God by looking at the nature of the universe. The 4th argument is the argument of degrees. Let's break down the argument of degrees into a syllogism. Thomas Aquinas' argument of degrees breaks down like this. Premise 1. Universal measurements are the result of ultimate standards, be it a measurement of heat or speed. Premise 2. We observe measurable moral goodness. Premise 3. These degrees imply a comparison to a maximal standard of moral goodness. Therefore, since we measure goodness, there must be an ultimate standard by which we measure that goodness, and an ultimate source and standard of goodness must exist. This would be a transcendent lawgiver. Premise 1 notes that we're very good at measuring things.
I don't measure, I just eyeball it.
Be it time, distance, or weight. But Thomas Aquinas notes that human beings are actually quite good at measuring morality. Today we will examine the argument of degrees by looking at 3 areas. Comparison between good and evil, noting that which is praiseworthy and that which is worthy of retribution, and finally, the Christian view of morality. Let's begin by comparing good with evil. In our previous video, we looked at Sir Winton, who saved hundreds of children from the horror of Nazi concentration camps. Most of those children's parents died in Nazi concentration camps, and Sir Winton found homes for those children after the war. Let's compare Sir Winton to Ilse Koch. Ilse Koch was married to one of the commandants at the concentration camp Buchenwald. Ilse not only visited vicious torture upon the victims of the concentration camps, but she seemed to enjoy it. I won't go into the details of what she did, that's something you can look up yourself, but she certainly did some incredibly cruel things to the people living in those concentration camps, and did so with genuine relish. This provides us with a very clear comparison in which we can measure morality in human beings. The overwhelming majority of people would say that Ilse Koch would be a very low person on our scale of morality, whereas Sir Winton would be very high. We can perform this numerous times over. Everyone would say that Mahatma Gandhi was relatively morally high, certainly compared to the British colonizers that murdered the good people of India. If we compare someone who advocates for the victims of sexual assault, we always rate them higher than someone who themselves was carrying out a sexual assault. Now, we can note that sometimes these measurements can be considerably closer to one another. It would be difficult to make a serious comparison to someone who gave their life teaching in a low-income area in very difficult circumstances, but truly invested in their students, or a member of the emergency services, like a police officer or a fireman. These people risk their lives every day for the safety of others. Now, you may think that the police officer or fireman might be slightly better than the teacher. The closer we get to these moral deeds, it can be sometimes a little tougher to measure, but we do recognize there could be a valid debate there. This ability to compare these 2 ideas shows us very clearly that human beings do have degrees of measurement of morality. Point number 2, we'll note that human beings have a very strong sense of that which is praiseworthy and that which deserves retribution. Human beings love to celebrate good deeds, but we really love to tear down a baddie. Almost all cultures have a form of hagiography. Hagiography is stories about great people and the great deeds that they did, written to inspire people to be like them. Hagiography is usually written about Christian saints, but it is sometimes used to describe other morally virtuous people. Have a wander throughout the United States and you will see Martin Luther King Boulevard, a statue of Nelson Mandela, a park named after Rosa Parks, or books about Malala Yousafzai. We do this because we love to be inspired by the deeds of the good and the brave and the wonderful. The Bible itself is a testimony to this desire. For thousands of generations, human beings have gathered together to tell stories about those who've done mighty deeds in the name of kindness. The Bible was collected largely from oral traditions where people would retell the same story again and again because people wanted to be inspired to be good. Yeah, we equally love a good juicy downfall. Whether it be a celebrity that has done something terrible and we can all complain about it,
or I will tweet and you will be cancelled.
And the modern wonder of cancel culture. How blessed we are to have social media warriors who can get behind a campaign to condemn someone that billions of people have already condemned.
A hero. Not the hero We deserved but the hero we needed.
Where would we be without their incredible Twitter-based insights? An example from when I was a kid was the good old Jerry Springer show. Oh, that was juicy. Jerry Springer show was, it was so gross. It was so horrible that we ever watched it. What made the show really interesting was the people on the show were always, they were so gross. I mean, it was really, really horrible. And then they get on the show and they would just behave like animals. It was upsetting, but super fun to watch. And it wasn't just fun to watch because they were gross. It was fun to watch because we could condemn. We get whipped into a frenzy where we would see the horrible things they were doing and be like, oh, they're so bad, and yell about it. Jerry, 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 Jerry. And it was kind of fun to see them get their comeuppance in the end. Kind of made you feel a little bit more superior, that whatever you were getting up to, at least you weren't that bad. Another example of this would be people who wait outside execution chambers to celebrate the death of someone who has been condemned to die. When I think about that, my own moral sense thinks what a grotesque behavior that is. I would be very quick to condemn anyone who goes to hang outside an execution site. But that would only be a testimony of my own innate desire to look for something that is praiseworthy and something worthy of retribution. All of this going to show that human beings have an innate sense of looking up to that which is praiseworthy and looking down to that which is worthy of retribution. This innate desire is a testimony that within human beings is a fundamental drive to find good and to condemn evil. Further evidence of Thomas Aquinas' argument of degrees. Let's finish up with a quick examination on the Christian view of ethics. Fundamental drive behind Christian ethics is to make the world more like heaven.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
As Christians, we look at the world and we see some terrible things, and something within us cries out that that is not how it is supposed to be. When we see sickness or loneliness or hopelessness, something within us cries out that we want to do something about that. We wish the world wasn't like that. As Christians, we believe this because we have a little bit of heaven within us, something which knows the world can be better than this. And so the basis of our morality is to make the world a little bit more like heaven. In heaven, there's no sickness, so we build hospitals. In heaven, there's no poverty, so we want to give resources to those in need. In heaven, there's no war, so Christians want to promote peace. In heaven, there's full knowledge of all things, so Christians bring about education. In heaven, there is no condemnation, so Christians want to bring about reconciliation. In heaven, everyone is made in the image of God, so Christians promote human dignity and the equality of all human beings. We don't always do it perfectly, but it is the basis of our moral understanding. While evil is so prevalent, so is outrage. There is a fundamental drive within each human being to want to change the world, to make it a better place. And that's a good and glorious thing about humans. It's something we get from our dad. But it cries out to us that we do fundamentally understand there is a system of good and of evil. And if we can measure it, what are we measuring it against? We would like to say, God.